Welcome back to Angie's Answers. Today I want to talk about one of the most common questions that we get asked when doing long arm quilting. How do you pick a thread color? We get that asked all the time. How do you pick a thread color? So I've learned over the years, because we've done thousands and thousands of quilts, it's really a lot of personal preference. So if you know who this quilt is going to be for, a lot of the times that's my first question. Who is this quilt for? If it's for your granddaughter or your niece or your daughter, then you kind of can pick, well, what is their favorite color and go with that color. A lot of the times what I also look at is there a high contrast between the background versus the piecing of the quilt. When there's something like this, a lot of the times what you want to do is focus on the piecing. Look at those butterflies and focus on that piecing. So then you want your thread to blend a little bit more in the background and not show up as much over here, because it would make the quilt busier. So I've got a wide assortment of threads here, and this is how I do it. I grab all of the colors that are kind of already in the quilt, and then I take each cone and stretch it out so I can see what that thread is gonna look like over the background. I can see what it's gonna look like over the piecing, and then I can kind of decide what looks best. I normally go for a pretty neutral or a medium color. So not super dark, not super light, but something that has a little bit of a color to it. I honestly rarely ever use white, solid white. I like it to have just a little bit of a color, because it will contrast in that background, but not so much that it'll make the quilt busy, so you won't focus on that piecing. I also think about, what is that design that I'm going to put on the quilt? Is the design going to have butterflies in it too? Then I would probably not want to contrast as much with the background, because I want that focus to stay on the piecing. If I'm doing kind of an overall meander or an overall loop where that pattern is a little bit more basic, then you could contrast a little bit more. The goal is to have the focus be on your piecing that you've done, and then that quilting complement that. So I've laid out all these different colors. I would probably pull out like this darker one that's a little bit too much in that white, and these over here, these are really dark. This is a really high contrast on that white, so this would make the quilt a lot busier. So I would pull out these darker ones, and this is how I do it. I just start eliminating the colors that I don't want. This one's kind of dull. So this color here, a little bit of like a blue gray, it just doesn't brighten up the quilt. So I would probably pull this one off too. And then I'm left with these nice bright colors here that are good medium tones that aren't gonna be too much. This pink here, this is a real light pink. Let me hold this up so you can kind of see the contrast. This is gonna look a little bit more white. So I would probably eliminate this one and leave this one in as a contender. And then I've got just a couple choices to choose from. So again, this is total personal preference. For me on this quilt, I would probably choose this yellow, because that yellow thread also helps to brighten up the quilt. It doesn't dull it out too. And it's not too much of a contrast in the white. It's not too much on the piecing too. So for me, I would choose this yellow. I did also want to show you, so all of these threads that I had laid out are the So Fine. They're from Superior. We love these So Fine threads because they're lint free, so they don't gum up my machines a lot. And it's just a really nice solid thread that I don't have to worry about it breaking. I have a couple other threads that I brought over too to talk about. These are the Magnifico threads from Superior, so they have a little bit of a shine to it. A shiny thread can also add another element to the quilt by using that, or you could look at even possibly doing a variegated thread. Keep in mind that the darker the variegation, the more contrast it's going to be, so your eye will focus on that quilting and not focus on the piecing, where this has a nice light variegation to it, not as much of a contrast. So I would probably go with this one over these primary colors. So I hope that helps answer how do I choose a thread color. Stay tuned for more videos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. And then on YouTube, go ahead and hit that bell so you receive any notifications when we post new videos. Hope you're having a great time and happy quilting. Thanks for watching Angie's Answers.